Hello, one and all, and welcome to Creative Spark, my YouTube show where I talk to cool people about the cool things that they are doing. With me today are two of the cousins from the Addams family, Deficient Master.
Hello, hello. Welcome. Well, wait, welcome. Well, no, thank you for having me. Gosh, we're
No,
already blown it.
thank you for having
Start it
me.
over. Just cut it. Start over.
It's fine. You interview me. Don't do that.
Welcome to your own show.
This is weird. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I've got a little. I've had a lot going on outside of what you see on the channel, what you see beyond just this desk. But yeah, we're kind of we're learning a lot of new things. We're experimenting with a lot of new things outside of the channel and seeing what we're going to do, and how how this YouTube channel is where I want to take it is definitely like something that seems like it changes almost every other day.
Mm.
I'm very much there's so much I do outside of these hands that that's been kind of pulling me away from trying to focus more on this, because that's one big thing that I know I made a pretty big splash coming in, starting off, and just now like that initial like high of, oh my gosh, new YouTube channel, honeymoon phase, has kind of now like not flatlined. We're still going up and to the right slightly, as far as like we're, the growth and overall just like opportunities that just doing this has allowed me. But now it's like there's just a lot of things we were talking about just right before you hit record, of like figuring out learning new skills that basically like how to start a YouTube channel videos just do not teach you after you've got a few thousand subscribers. Now there's a lot of where you got to now start finding your own path, and that's where I'm kind of at right now with everything, at least what you see here on the desk.
Is that exhilarating, or is it just terrifying?
It's right now it's just flat out exhausting. It's more so it is terrifying in a way of like, or just it's scary of a lot of imposter syndrome type feeling of, for instance, I've got a lot of like events coming up. I've been invited to like Green Dragon Fest, and I have even some events that I'm gonna be hosting at Gen Con this August. And so now there's this pressure to not only be who I am in front of this camera, but also be people's ideation of Deficient Master in real life when they actually meet me. Can I be am I as interesting or as entertaining as I can be, in person than I am in on the camera with an editing timeline where I can cut and snip everything that I want to I show you exactly what I want you to see. And now there's going to be, now there's moments where you're going to see, there's like, even like this, where I don't have the control. This is just a live conversation. You're hearing me umming and ahhing. That annoys me to no end from a editor standpoint. And of course, I listen to plenty of podcasts of all kinds too. So it's like I'm okay with the rambling. I'm okay with the umming and ahhing when I listen to other people. But I hold myself at such a high level when I'm recording anything that it's like, I like feeling in control. And as things have kind of been growing, at least from the channel standpoint, and things that are also happening outside of my channel, like I'm feeling like less and less in control of every aspect. And so therefore, there's a lot of things that are scary right now, but we're going to be fine. We're going to live. I don't regret doing what I've done so far. And it's just, it comes with the territory of doing new things that are scary. That's how you get opportunities like being a guest game master at an event, or being able to host events at Gen Con is doing the scary thing.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go back to when it wasn't work then. Let's talk about how you got into TTRPGs in the first place. So when did that start for you?
Started late for me. Despite people thinking I'm very like OSR, I never grew up with AD&D or the original D&D. I very much grew up with Pathfinder, actually, Pathfinder First Edition. And I didn't even start until after high school. Right after high school, I had a friend of mine. I'd go over to his house, and he and his roommates would play. First, they were playing some fantasy board games like Talisman Fourth Edition. I remember running a few games or playing a few games with him in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, "Hey, we should do a role playing game." And we started off originally, sorry, not with Pathfinder. We started off with Star Wars Saga.
Okay.
Which is very much it's got a 3.5 feel. Very much it's just D20, roll D20, roll high. The way stats and skills work in that Star Wars system was very much like 3.5 of D&D. And I would go over to his house and we'd play. But the big thing about that was there was a problem, or at least there was a big secret I had to keep, because in my upbringing, I was very much brought up in that mindset that TTRPGs, Dungeons and Dragons is of the devil. Like I had the chick track of what is that, Dark Dungeons. Like I've read that firsthand, and all of that like upbringing of like, oh, it's you're doing magic, and you're there's demons in it and all that, so I had that kind of environment. So when we started playing, I very much had to like avoid telling my parents at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because I was still staying. Me and my brothers, we were still living with them, and so we would kind of like not really talk about it in at home at all. And so, but whenever we go over to Michael's house, his name was Michael, and so when mom and dad ever asked what Michael was, what you're doing over at Michael's, and I was like, well, we're playing board games. And then when we started playing, and we're playing like a Star Wars game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we played that for a while, and then we wanted to get into more of like, we wanted to see what actual D&D or like we all were big fantasy nerds. I don't care for sci-fi. I mean, Star Wars is just fantasy in space. It's not sci-fi. It's not sci-fi.
100%.
And so we wanted to go all the way into fantasy. And so I remember my buddy Michael, who's like, let's do 3.5 Pathfinder, 3.5 D&D. And we were looking through the rule books, and then he's like, actually, I want to do Pathfinder. At this time it was Pathfinder First Edition, because it's just more streamlined. It's just better than 3. It just fixes a lot of things that 3.5 or expands on them. And so we were doing Pathfinder, and we were like, great, Pathfinder is perfect, because then we can, when our parents ask us what we're doing at Michael's, we don't have to say like, oh, it's Dungeons and Dragons. We say it's Pathfinder. It's not, we're just practicing magic and fighting demons in Pathfinder, not Dungeons and Dragons. That means it's okay. Yep. Therefore, that was our mentality at the time. And so that went on for a while of playing Pathfinder. Then I eventually was able to, I got so interested in the game and the concept of how stories and the character building and character creations and adventure designing that I wanted to run it myself. And so I started slowly becoming the forever GM, whereas Michael was always the game master originally for those initial Pathfinder campaigns. And I cut my teeth on Pathfinder as far as running it, especially. And eventually my parents found out like, oh, is that's like Dungeons and Dragons? And we're like, yeah. But like at that point, it was kind of like, also like we grew up watching Lord of the Rings and watching Star Wars, and so it's like the line of where this is okay versus this is not okay in my community was a little fuzzy. But that was always something that's like I remember being so scared of at the time, or so afraid that I had to hide it at the time. That again, looking back on it, it's just ridiculous. But again, at that time, that was the whole world to me of like not not upsetting the ones you love.
Well, people were real weird about it for a while, right? So it's only natural that a lot of people got caught up in that as news stories were going around about it and everything else.
Well, I'm not even that old again, and I'm not even that old. So it's like, and at least in the religious community, I was brought up in a lot of that stuff, just kind of a lot of stuff that like those kind of like those religious phases kind of stick with us. Yeah. Like Harry Potter is still of the devil. And and of course D&D is of the devil because that kid got off did that thing. So it's like that all stuck around for a bit. That still is very sticky even in the at that time, the 2010s.
I think it still is now in
my community,
really, like in some communities. For
sure, for sure.
So how did you go from there to starting your own YouTube channel about it?
Well, it was a big old gap of about 10 years because I was running a lot of games. Mostly it was in Pathfinder. And then I'm somebody who gets overly obsessive over whatever, new thing that when any kind of hobby I get
Yeah.
into, I go 120% in. So of course I wanted to be like, I wanted to like hone the DMing skills. So, I read, of course, everything that had to do with like how to run a Pathfinder better. I started like reading all these like niche blogs that I've never, suddenly started finding out about like, I think of, like Goblin Punch, Hack and Slash.
Hmm.
Um, Again, now there's so many more that have kind of sprouted out, especially during those. There was like a Google app that I know they shuttered about now over 5, 6 years ago. That a lot of I think there was like a huge D&D tabletop blog community that was
Right.
all kind of huddled around, and I think that all disbanded. So then, like, basically everybody was trying to like get it, go to my blog, go to my
Mm.
blogs. So I had like a huge bookmark tab of tabletop RPG blogs, mostly in like that were a lot of them were people that have ran games for 20, 30, 40
Yeah.
years. And I was reading what they do, how do they run their games, and I learned a lot of things that the RPG rule books, the Dungeon Master's guides were not telling me,
Hmm.
teaching me. Of course, at that time, people like Matt Colville was on the rise. So again, his stuff was also very helpful of just like seeing the game beyond just what the Dungeon Master guide tells you
Yeah.
and what just trying to hone the craft because there's a and what I've realized is that TTRPGs have so many different skill sets that you
Yeah.
need. It's improvisation. There is some storytelling chops you need to be aware of, at least
Hmm.
as far as art, story structure and arcs.
Yeah.
Though I have a very strong opinion on storytelling in my games, but the what came to be the channel was that I've been working as a nurse now for it'll be almost 8 years. I think it's about 8 years now. And I was working at a bedside nurse for a long time. And I traveled during the pandemic across the country of the United States. And I was in like Las Vegas when COVID hit. And I remember just kind of like just in that environment where you're seeing a lot of people at their worst and a lot of
Mm.
people at their end of life, even some that were there in those moments when they weren't, they weren't supposed to get sick.
Yeah.
These are people that are relatively young and like, yes, okay. I tell my folks all the time, um, like, okay, COVID. I saw a lot of COVID cases where, okay, you're 150 pounds overweight. You've been a smoker for 40 years. You have heart failure for 20 years. Okay, when you get COVID, you're like, I'm not surprised that this is what did you in.
Mm.
That was the majority of the cases I would see, but then I would see the 35-year-old
Yeah.
ish that didn't have any medical history pass
Yeah.
away because of it. And so that scared me, or at least it scared me of like, okay, what I did for my career was more of like a safe direction that I went
Mm.
to because my father was very much like a starving artist type
Right.
growing up. So I went into somewhere that I was like, I want to go to a career where I always have a job, and I don't regret that at all.
Yeah.
But then now it's that point where once your initial, like, okay, I know I'm making this much money and I can live this kind of relatively comfortable
Yeah.
lifestyle, go on this many X amount of vacations, X amount of, going out to eat X amount of times in a month. That's awesome
Hmm.
and a blessing. Now it's time to fulfill like that next step of,
Yeah.
okay, now those dumb dreams you had when you were 18, 19, what are some of those dumb dreams that you maybe now can like aren't don't look as dumb
Yeah.
because you have this safety net, or what I call it, a golden bungee cord of my career, of like, again, I'm in the medical field. So that's what at least gave me that push to do the dumb thing of make the dumb YouTube channel.
Yeah.
um because even if it completely failed, um even if it got somehow completely canceled, then I just go back to being a bedside nurse and
Yeah.
like nothing, and then I go back to that, at least that level of comfortability.
Yeah.
And so yeah, like that was the motivation, was that like that internal, like, okay, and I want to start doing stuff that I've been saying I wanted to
Mm.
do for the last decade or so. Let's try it. And so that's what I end up doing. So then now that turned into an obsession of, I had about a 6 month period
Mhm.
of heavy research into how to launch a YouTube channel, how to edit. I do not have any editing
Right.
experience starting off, and I know that I think whenever I say that, it always surprises a lot of people. But it's more so of just like, again, that is just how I'm wired. Of That's how much research I was doing.
Yeah.
I was doing, and it was all through YouTube. Like I taught myself everything on you, how to do YouTube on YouTube.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible to do it. At least to get, I can at least guarantee if you put in the time and if you put in that obsession, you will reach at least a certain threshold.
Yeah.
And again, like we could get into like where I'm at now with like in the current like channel size and growth and everything. And like there is now it's getting a little bit more nebulous on on like strategy and stuff,
Mm.
but there is some pretty clear steps that you can follow that will at least net you a certain level of success on this platform. Um, but yeah, like that was kind of like how everything started. Was I just wanted to kind of say the things that I didn't feel like were being said, at least in the YouTube
Yeah.
space. And as a lot of it was stuff I learned through these.
Hmm.
It was stuff I've learned through these bloggers that were, again, game masters that were playing for 30, 40, 50 years, some of them, and they just weren't being heard in this particular area of the
Yeah.
internet. And it was stuff that I actually applied myself, and I was like, "Wow, this actually works." It wasn't just like, "Oh, this is cool, yoink." It was more of like, "Oh, this is cool. I'm going to use this. Wow, this actually works."
Yeah.
And it's made this part of the process of running games way much easier. I need to tell somebody about it. And so that's kind of where the channel originally, the idea for the channel initially came about. And I don't know if we want to go into this, but but then there was the part of, okay, now we got to strategize. How do we launch with the best intentions or with the best chances of some sort of a success?
Mm.
That I did a lot of research on before, beyond just like, yeah, I want to do a YouTube channel
Yeah.
about Dungeons and Dragons. But yeah, that's how we started. Was that kind of like that moment of crisis in the pandemic
Yeah.
was the turning point of let's start doing dumb things. And so far, the dumb things have been at least has been pretty successful. At least have netted me some amazing opportunities
Yeah.
that I never thought I would be doing on this side of a camera.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think this is going to be really heavy. I think being faced with mortality as a general rule is a really good
No,
motivator.
that's also my warning is that I'm very on my channel. I'm very cynical. I'm very like, but like in reality, I'm pretty level headed.
Mm.
I'm pretty introspective on like time, mortality. The reason why it's deficient is very much me cranked to 11
Hmm.
at my most cynical but yes, buried underneath all of that like flashy editing
Yeah.
and the erratic hands is like this is like I like to get deep. I think that's also why I'm so open to talk about stuff like my micro trauma
Yeah.
dosing of throughout COVID, and because I'm so tired of superficial conversations. And like scrolling on the internet just oftentimes feels like it's just so much and again, it's so much of an act, or at least there's so much like we're just talking about nonsense. It's like let's
Yeah.
start like making each other better. Let's just start. I'm okay having hard conversations. That's
Hmm.
something I'm very much open to. I don't know, but again, I think that's also the nurse in me. We nurses have to ask, did you poop today?
Yeah.
So that's already like a level of like there's a the
You
level of
have, yeah.
privacy.
You're
I am
past small
totally
talk.
willing to. Yeah, I'm so past small talk, 100%.
I mean, I have to ask my son if he pooped. Well, I don't ask my son. I ask my wife if my son's pooped. He did not today, but he continued farting. At some point during the night, that's going to be a problem.
There you go.
But kids, why did you? Why did you? We'll do a double question. Why Deficient Master and why just hands?
Deficient Master was very much again. I was playing with a lot of names. I wanted something again. It was at the point too where I started the channel. You start a channel 10 years after, especially the most popular version of Dungeons and Dragons was released. So you're already up a creek without a paddle as far as like your options for names. Like so
There are a
many
lot
like
of them. Yeah.
any versions of like roll or dice is just not like has already been claimed. any type of like any proper name that's in the D&D rule book of like, bonus action was taken,
Yep.
stuff like that. Power word blank has already been taken, with power words. I think
All
my
of
friend
them.
Power Word Spill.
Yep.
They've all been taken. So it's like Deficient was more of again, it's like kind of I wanted something a little cynical. And I think too, like the angle I went with was that again, with my research of like, okay, I want to launch a YouTube channel and I want it to be about Dungeons and Dragons. Well, okay, let's look at all these channels and let's see. Well, okay, 95% of them are all people who sit in front of a camera for, especially at the time. The people have definitely evolved over especially the last few years.
Yeah.
But over for the majority of the ones I used to watch when I was, learning how to play better,
Mm-hmm.
Guy sits in front of a camera for 20 minutes, uncut, unedited, talks about, here's how to make your werewolves better, and
Yeah.
here's how to make your dungeons more interesting. And it's like 20-minute video, and like great, like that's help. That's like the content's helpful.
Of course.
But I think like because you're on YouTube, there is this idea of there's this presentation format of like we have a video. It's a video. It's a content that you watch, not just listen to. Like there's a lot of stuff I could say that would make great blog posts
Yeah.
that you could read at your leisure, or maybe even just like in a podcast format that you could just pop on and listen to as you're, vacuuming the house. But because I wanted to get into YouTube, I wanted to do something that like I wanted to use the format of the visuals, and it's hard. It's actually one of the big, really hard things to do in the tabletop space because it's an imaginary game.
Yes.
So it's hard to like, how can I show what I'm explaining in this an imaginary game versus like a video game channel where it's like, cool, you just play the video game and then talk over it.
Yep.
Or even like I've been watching just because I'm trying to find some inspiration of like, I'm watching these Magic the Gathering, like these channels that all these big channels that have started second channels for Magic the Gathering. like Papa Meat, Moist Critical, I know has started this, like has a Magic channel now. And they're just playing the game. And I'm just trying to find ways to make talking about the game and maybe even playing the imaginary game visually interesting. How can I do that? And so far, it's been a lot of editing. And with a lot of editing is the answer. But as far as the style of the Faceless, another thing I noticed that was kind of missing in the circle was that there is no caricature in the D&D YouTube space.
Right.
A lot of people just sitting in front of the camera, being their genuine self, which is by the side session here of like everybody that I've met so far in the tabletop space is exactly like they are on camera, and it's awesome. But I wanted to do something where if I'm not showing my face, I can say things that at least it gives me the confidence to like say things and also be like, hey, at the end of the day, we're all just playing imaginary games, and like maybe again, like leaning into that caricature of like a person of like the D&D obsessed dungeon master that's like so obsessed about optimizing his game that like it gets to the uncanny, or it just gets to like, okay, who really needs to obsess this much about about a hobby like this? To me, that sounded like fun, or at least it sounded like I could be fun. And and it was, again, it just brought out a lot of things that were like repressed growing up, that were just like, again, things that like I wanted to do, or things I wanted to pursue. Again, I was a theater kid growing up. That's that's also why tabletop role-playing games appealed to me so much too. I enjoyed games. I enjoy game design mechanics. I love like tinkering, and I love basically like I'm like a watchmaker that likes to rip apart and see how the watch is ticking. When it comes to board games or even in video games and tabletop RPGs. And so TTRPGs is just the easiest method to like open a book and just start ripping out, seeing how it works and then ripping it out and applying it to over here and seeing how does that work here in this particular situation. So the channel was very much of like, that's my advice for anybody that's wanting to start any kind of channel is, okay, what kind of, pick your niche, pick your what you're going to talk about. And then what can you bring to the table that's different? And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but it's just enough of like, again, me locking this camera to this angle,
Yeah.
and you only see my hands and you never see what my face is. That was enough of oh, this is different for, I think, for that initial wave of subscribers to come in.
Cool.
And again, that's why I think that's what you have to do in the world of YouTube today. Let's just not even talk about like the D&D YouTube
Yeah.
space, but just most of YouTube spaces. Unless you are carving out a brand new niche that nobody else has really ever heard of,
Which you
you
can't
got to
do.
do something different. Like it's because there's so much competition because it's so easy to it's such an easy barrier of entry
Yeah.
relatively.
Yeah, 100%. How do you choose what to do videos on?
Yeah, I'm still trying to choose what to do videos on because right now I'm definitely in an experimental phase. I will say that like I feel like I have kind of said I have given out my most useful advice, and I feel like there's again we talked about this off camera of like this level of now you're in this like mid-tier channel size where it's a bit ominous or a bit foggy on what is the appropriate optimal strategy to do next to like
Yeah.
bring you up to that next level to like, and for me the next level is my ultimate goal is to escape nursing. Ultimately, whatever means
Yeah.
necessary. And if it is in something like this, like, hey, great. So I'm very much more, I think I'm more, and especially I'm more openly, when you sit me down and and you get me to talk for longer than 5 minutes, I'm more openly about like trying to find ways to break that and break that cycle, break that career cycle.
Yeah.
And, I'm more like, oh, yeah, I want to keep growing, like ultimately, because that's just what would get me to getting away from the day job ultimately. So right now I'm in this very much of an experimental phase of I want to talk about more things beyond just role playing games. I want to talk about games in general. I would love to be able to bring in things like board game design, even video game mechanics and design, and how that would apply to basically any type of. I want to be like a game designer channel. That's tough, like because I'm basically pivoting, and my audience,
Yeah.
or at least I was wanting to initially pivot, and I still am unsure of how I'm going to address things looking forward because um, as far as the D&D advice or TTRPG advice, I'm kind of burnt out on.
Yeah.
I mean, comes to from especially with the cost of what it takes to in both in time and in money to make a video. I've said all this with much more polish and editing in my D&D tube sucks. This is why
Yeah.
video. But it's there like I need a certain threshold of views based on the money I've spent for editing and the time I spend for editing especially if I don't want to spend money on editing. I have to do a topic or it has to be a concept that is going to get a certain amount of views. So I make enough AdSense just to break even.
Yeah.
Or a sponsorship just to break even. And so that's a bummer in a way of like, I would love to just like turn on a camera, talk for 20 minutes about like, here's how I would change, whatever. Again, nothing's happening in D&D space right now outside of like, there's no adventure. Like, here's how I would change Wild Beyond the Witchlight. Here's how I would change Curse of Strahd. Like, I would love to just make those kind of silly videos. But they won't, they would take me way to maintain the quality of the channel currently. Like it would take way too much effort to only get a few thousand views. And I know that's like so selfish, especially when you talking to channel. I remember not too long ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this video got 1,000 views. Now it's like, oh my gosh, this video got 1,000 views. I'm screwed. Right. So it's, everybody, you get to a new plateau wherever you're at, no matter where I think in every stage of life, but especially in this YouTube game. Of like, what was once a 5,000 views was once like, oh my gosh, I've made it, I've gone viral, is now, oh my gosh, that's a 10 out of 10. My channel's going to die. So that's that grind of needing to always go up and to the right. That is that's what is kind of like guiding me right now. Of like, what can I do to keep pushing things a little more, broadening the audience, broadening like the appeal of the channel, using my strengths that I've learned over these last year or two. That's why like the D&D but actually games were they were so appealing to me because I thought I cracked the code. Because my very first one, D&D but actually Monopoly, did wall bangers for a channel of my size.
Yeah.
And I've yet to be able to repeat that. I have some theories why, but I still want to even go back onto that format, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that we have to re-strategize around, because
Hmm.
it was what the audience didn't see was that both Skylar, my editor, and who was my editor, and we both worked 60-hour weeks um, for on those videos and we were like literally pulling all-nighters up to the moment it hit publish. There's even some I can think of in D&D but actually Betrayal and D&D but actually Sorry, there are several like animations, full-blown animations Skylar did that just didn't make the final cut because we literally exported then pit published because we
Right.
were on a deadline for like a sponsorship or whatnot. And it was not that was not a hustle grind set that I did not want to keep doing.
Yeah.
Especially for like, again, maybe if it was raking in 500,000 views like Monopoly was able to pull off, but
Yeah.
because it wasn't like I was seeing diminishing returns on it, it was like, okay, we need to pull back and maybe reevaluate the work it's going to take, and how can we make this so that way it's not as draining on us outside of things, and but also be better for the audience, because I think there is a format there we can hone a little bit better.
Hmm.
I was even seeing a bit of a split in my audience because you had people like, I want more D&D advice, but then I had a new audience coming in of like seeing these games and being like, oh, this is hilarious, I want to keep
Yeah.
watching them play silly games. And I get why people would want me to keep doing more D&D advice, but my problem is that like I'm kind of getting tired talking about D&D. I just want to play
Yeah.
D&D. And that was the But Actually games was such a fun way for me to be playing games with other creators that I would look up, that I looked
Yeah.
up to. And it's a path I still want to keep going down, but there's a lot of we got behind the scenes, we've got a lot of things to figure out so that way it doesn't turn into me and an editor working 60 plus hours a week.
Yeah.
We never see our spouses.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so that's for video ideas right now, it's a bit nebulous on what direction to go into. Um, but we're in the playing we're playing around right now. We're in the playing around phase, and I think that's good. I think you should experiment. I think every channel needs to experiment in some way
Yeah, for
to
sure.
find those other content buckets. Um, but yeah, again, if anybody's got video ideas, I'm kind of open at this point. But again, it's tough because it's got to hit a certain threshold of interest to be worth the time and effort to put into, for me anyway.
Do you think it's worth it for you as a person running a channel to have hit this point now where you are making money from it and it's not just you doing whatever you want?
It's validating to be able to say that you're making money on your own terms.
Hmm.
There is something to be said, and from both good and bad, of like, wow, if I don't get up today, if I don't make this today, if I don't hit record today, then I'm not going to, I'm not going to get paid.
Yeah.
I took a brief, well, not brief. I took a 6-month break because when Monopoly went out and it started doing wall bangers, and I was seeing everything going up and to the right, I'm like, I'm going to take a quick break and see. I'll take a month break in my day job and see kind of how things go.
Mm.
And that was hindsight. It wasn't a great idea because I had plenty of things saved up. So we're, like I said, I'm not in any kind of scary financial situation because of this decision. But I took a month off, and I'm like, oh wow, that month did amazing because Monopoly came out,
Yeah.
and then I started doing more. But actually, games, I'm like, cool, I'm gonna do this. Let's do another month of just YouTube, and then I did another month. Then I'm doing like 6 months. And at that point, that's when like things were starting to get diminishing returns on the video ideas, and again, the work was getting also the videos were getting a diminishing return on views, but then also the work was getting, the animations that we were trying to do were getting higher, and when the effort was getting harder and harder, and it was just grinding on me and Skylar. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to step back. And then there was that pressure too of I have to upload, I have to make this much money on AdSense / sponsorships because then I can't pay rent. That's a different mindset when it's and again, totally self-inflicted. Now I'm back at work, back at my night job now for nursing, and it's at least got as much of it a pain as it is to like, oh, I've got oh, I'm tired, I just worked, or I'm just came back from a week, a 3 night shifts in a row. Now I don't have to worry about like it can go back to how it was at the start of the channel, where it's
Yeah.
like this can make $1, this can make $1,000, this month for all I care. Like it's just extra play money at this point. And for me, it's all YouTube all right now is goes right back into YouTube. Anything I make on YouTube and other things like on my Ko-fi channel, and on like for sponsorships goes right back into the channel for now. And I think that's just where I still need to be at for now and that will allow me to go back to, okay, let's start experimenting. Cause I was definitely hesitant to experiment when it was the full time. And it was, again, it's like, okay, well, this month you only made this much money and now you're not going to pay rent. You're going to have to dip into the savings for rent this time. So like, that's definitely not a place I wanted to be at. So, but because again, I don't regret it at all. Like it's brought on some crazy opportunities. Again, 2 years ago, I was watching these channels being like, oh, this is awesome. I wish I could do that. And now I'm doing that with them. And now I'm playing games with them. Now I'm going to be at events with them. I'm meeting them in person. Like that's crazy. Like that's awesome. So, but yeah, like it's rewarding, but it's also it brings on so many new challenges when you are no longer working for somebody else, when you're just working for yourself. You are your hardest boss. I will say that. Yeah. Like you think your boss sucks, you're at your day job, like you're going to be your hardest boss. You can't just sit and watch a movie with your spouse because you're thinking about, well, I could be doing 2 more hours of editing or just 2 more hours of polish on this this upcoming video. And if I don't get this video out, then I don't make, then this doesn't do that well. And then my brand dies and then nobody will know who I am. And I just die in obscurity. But like that kind of pressure, that's the kind of pressure is like, it's a lot, but it's, I don't know if I would want to do it any other way at this point. I think like I can't go back to just being a nurse. I'll say that much. After seeing after seeing that initial boost in how things started off in that first year of YouTube, like there's no way I can just completely like, it's like waking up in the Matrix. You know that there's another way. You can do it. Like, okay, when they'll be like, oh wow, I made $1 off of the internet. And then it's like, then later, like, oh, I made $10 off. I made $1,000 off the internet. Like once you know that you can do that, it's hard to be like, okay, now I'm just going to put that away and never do that again and go back to, working my 9 to 5 forever. So like I took the red pill. Now I gotta like, I can't not know about it. I can't not keep like be doing that. So it's it's just my burden to bear. So, but it's again, I don't regret it at all. As much as I complain, I don't regret it.
Has anyone ever recognized you at an event?
Gen Con, I started. That was when that was kind of my first public appearance, was Gen Con last year, and it was actually my first Gen Con I've ever been to. And I only went for a day. I went on the Friday, and nobody knew who I was, of course, because again, all you know is the hands. And what was fun though was that I could go up to these booths and I can go up to these YouTubers that were walking around, and then I could like reveal myself to them, kind of thing. So my favorite is actually and I don't know, I only had this as set dressing, and I just remembered I have it in here. I bought a copy of Shadow Dark at the Shadow Dark booth. Very cool. And I had Kelsey Dion sign it for me, and then Baron was there running the booth as well, Baron Durop from Dungeon Masterpiece, and I was able to stand in line, and I handed him my book. It's like, Baron Durop, can you sign my book, please? And he's like, oh yeah, sure, man. And he starts like open up. He's like, and can you make it out to Deficient Master? And he's like, oh, you. And he gave me a big hug. So it was fun to like do that several times. I was able to like reveal reveal like I'm Deficient Master to several YouTubers, and it was a lot of fun to do that. But nobody's ever like, no, I say, if you can recognize me just by my hands alone, you deserve to see my face.
I reckon maybe the wedding ring would be like the only thing.
I don't spoiler, I actually don't wear this one a lot. But I that's kind of like my only signature right now.
I couldn't even do hands. Like my hands would be my hands are quite recognizable due to all of the tattoos.
Yeah. I'll say that Majora's Mask. Yeah. Hey, yeah. So, yeah, I can never get a hand tattoo now, but I mean, not that I would really want to, but yeah. So it's no, nobody's ever recognized me just from the hands alone. But if you do, props to you. And I guess we'll I'll buy you a drink or something if you manage to flag me down by my hands alone.
Is it weird that you now do events where people will see your face, like the events that you've got coming up where you're being a DM and stuff?
Yeah, it's I mean, so it hasn't happened just yet. So it's gonna, at this time of recording, Green Dragon Fest is about 2 weeks away, and then of course Gen Con's in August. But I've thought about like, oh, should I wear, you know, like a mask of some sort or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to go like the Dream route, Dream from Minecraft, or I kind of want I think I want Deficient Master to be more like channels like these animating channels. Like I think of Jaden, I think of Odd One Out, where it's like 99% of the time you just see their caricature, their card, their drawing of them. But then like, if if Odd One Out is guest appearing at another channel or whatever, and it's a physical thing where they're doing something physically at an event, like if there's his face, like there it is. Like, and it's like there's nothing crazy about me I'm just another straight white dude in the hobby. Like I'm not like, it's not like this, like it's not that big of a mystery. Spoiler alert. But I think I might just wear a regular mask, like a hospital mask of some sort, I think, at some events. But I think especially at Green Dragon Fest, I'm going full face. I'm not gonna I want, because I care more about like the actual physical relationship with potential fans and just other collaborators than I do about like maintaining the brand.
Yeah.
Like I care way more about like that kind of relationship 100%. So that's why I'm leaning away from, like, I'm not going to wear, that we're not like Iron Mouse or like some of these VTubers that, you never see their face. I'm not How To Basic, spoiler alert. Like people will see who I am. I'm not too worried about that. In fact, that's actually, it's exciting because I just feel like I can actually, like, I can put faces to fans as well. And again, but I don't think I'll say this. I don't think you will ever see me show my face on my channel. I'll say that much.
Very, very fair. You talked a little bit about this in terms of like what you want to do with the channel in the long run. Is there, so not what are your plans, but is there an ideal version of your channel in your head?
Yeah. For sure. At the time when the last couple of uploads, I was hinting at like I was designing a game, and unfortunately, due to the current circumstances, I basically, like, there is no timeline now when I can get that done due to tariff stuff going on in the U.S. As far as like the initial projection was like, I want to grow the brand to, or at least the channel to where I can like create. I want to make silly games. Ultimately, I want to make silly games, but then they're silly. But then when you actually like look into them, you realize, oh, this is actually something I want to play.
Yeah.
And that was something I felt like that like that's what happened with Monopoly and some of the other games I was able to do with D&D. But actually, is that it's not just stupid YouTube fun of like, oh yeah, it's he put D&D classes in chess or whatever, and that's it. Like there does go some mechanical thought to how do I actually make it feel like D&D in a chess, in chess, beyond just like throwing on a D&D paint skin over everything. So I would love to do more of that. And again, we want to be able to optimize that so we find so we have a good, so it's consumable, so the audience would love it. I'm thinking we're trying to maybe go like shorter, not do like hour-long plus videos. That would also shorten the editing load on me and my editor. But I would love to do that more, and then hopefully like that kind of also acts as like a soft way to experiment and find like what do people actually really like enough to maybe even make a game, like an original game of. Either based off of those concepts or a combination of those concepts. And then, I probably run them on we'll probably have to initially run them on Kickstarter and stuff. And every YouTuber's got to have a Kickstarter, every D&D YouTuber has a Kickstarter and whatever. But like, that is how you have to play the game
Yeah.
to like if you want to hit that like that next level of revenue potentially outside of like, just having to roll the dice and go viral every upload.
Yeah.
So I would love to again, I the long term of the channel, I would love it to be a playground of experiments of game design, and then that could then also direct people to like, okay, well now if you want these games, you can physically have them, or even digitally have them, um, through here through Deficient Games or whatever.
Yeah.
I've even opened an LLC just to have that business of Deficient Games to just to get the ball rolling in that
Yeah.
direction potentially. So that is what I ultimately would love to do because again, I enjoy playing the games. I enjoy I enjoy interacting with the people around the table more
Yeah.
so than even more so than the game itself. A game, whether that's the role playing game or that's the board game, that's just the engine, or that's just the centerpiece to it's just the centerpiece to bring people together.
Yeah.
So that's where I find I ultimately thrive, is when when I can host people in any sense of the way, any sense of the word. Whether that's me, making, designing a game just for them, or hey, I'm planning it and it's going to be at my house, and I'm gonna have all this custom stuff, and I've thought about everything about what you and your character was doing, and like that stuff really appeals to me. That kind of hosting. And so I would love to bring that to the channel, and then also be able to like, and be able to do something with that beyond just, okay, make silly YouTube videos and cross your fingers and hope you go viral. Like I would love it to turn into a business where be able to design games
Yeah.
that other people all across the world could be able to play.
Very, very cool. Is there anything at all that you would like to plug other than your
I'd
channel?
like to plug. Have we already hit an hour? Gosh, I ramble.
No, not at all.
No, I mean right now it's no, right now I've got we've got a lot of growth to do. We've got a lot of figuring things out, a lot of discovery. It's been a blast so far. Despite, again, I think like, again, when you actually sit me down, I think about this too, even in role playing games too. Like you see people complaining about, oh, D&D sucks because of this, and Pathfinder sucks because of that, and this game sucks because of that. It's like when people ramble and rave about like and complain. Oftentimes we complain about things we're really passionate about. More so, or we have a good list of complaints for things that we're actually passionate about. So even like what I've said so far of like, oh my gosh, Deficient's having a midlife crisis of his channel. It's like, no, this is something I've loved so much, and it's been such a huge, amazing opportunity to do that. Like, I do see, again, if all the holes I've poked into about being a YouTuber, or being like a personality for a hobby of yours turns you like, I don't know if I want to do that, well then you shouldn't do that. You're not in love with it enough to do that, or you don't want that enough to do that. I think I wanted my growth, my character arc in real life has brought me of like, I want to do something a little more than just go to work and do the 9 to 5 over and over again. And like I said, this has been the first of what probably won't be the I've even said it on my channel of like, Deficient Master might not even be like, this might just be a test run for all I know. But we're just kind of running the race and seeing where this ride will take us. So otherwise, I'm Deficient Master. You can follow me, of course, on YouTube. I have a newsletter, Deficient Master. It's on Beehive. That's where I'm going to start posting more, as far as like, that's where I'm going to start talking more about just like the niche things that, I would love to talk about, but it's not worth enough to make a full video and edit it and all that effort. But it's good enough to like where, I think it's good, valuable information that you could read, within 5 minutes. So that's something I'm going to be pursuing more of on the side, as well as my own newsletter as well. It's that Deficient Master at Beehive. But Jason, thank you so much for having me on, man.
Thank you for coming on. I appreciate you managing to find time. It is greatly appreciated. I know that you're tired and busy, so So yeah, thank you very much. I don't know how this is going to work. We're going to wave at the camera because that's how we say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Yeah, there we go.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.